Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the pregame cheat sheet. We are live from Arrowhead Stadium. I'm Darren Smith, along with Mr. Steve Walls. He is host of the W. Steve, what's going on? Well, first let me say happy Amazon Prime evening to you, brother.
It's like you're saying Amazon Prime Day, but today it's Thursday. I'm excited, man. First home game of the season. It's going to be a sea of red, and not only that, but it seems kind of surreal because I was telling someone earlier a weeknight for football in Kansas City. We've had a few games but Thursday nights are kind of rare for football in KC.
Well, be honest, of course, every team has one, of course, when it comes to the away.
But then we had COVID a couple years, and so this is actually getting the full effect of it.
Well, look, first of all, I am happy to say that we are back. Of course, this is the Kansas City Chiefs home opener, and they take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Kickoff is at 7:15 on Amazon Prime. Of course, locally in the Kansas City area, you can watch the game on Channel 41 KSHB. TV. Steve, what are you looking for in tonight's game? Of course, both teams come off of impressive opening day victories last week. The Los Angeles Chargers, 24-19 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. Kansas City, of course, had an impressive 44-21 win over the Arizona Cardinals in Phoenix last week, where it is the site of Super Bowl 57 next year.
Yeah. So to start, I really want to see if this offense can continue to be the same as it was. Like, when you look at last year when they played the Chargers, the walk-off victory in L.A. And so last week you did nine.
But the Chargers had the same type of victory at Arrowhead in Week 3 last year.
Yeah, and so like 9 guys last week in Arizona were able to have receptions. Yeah. So, I mean, when you see Patrick spread the ball around 2019-esque, right? Like he was 2019, the Super Bowl run year, they were able to spread the ball around a lot. And so it seems like you're going to get a good dose of that. And not only that, but I was talking to someone earlier this week about the fact of when Tyreek Hill, when he went down in 2019, and then you had a different dose of guys. You had DeMarcus Robinson step up. You had Byron Pringle step up. McCole step up another day. I think that's the kind of game that you're going to get each and every week from this Kansas City Chiefs team.
First of all, it wasn't just this season, the Super Bowl year, because also the year that they went back and tried to repeat. Mm-hmm. I remember talking to former wide receiver DeMarcus Robinson, and we were talking about his numbers. He said, "Man, I can't because Patrick's passing the ball around now." And it was, I mean, he's had many incentives where he's passed the ball to really 9-10 different receivers. So it's not unheard of and it's not uncommon. It's just that I think this year, right before the start of the season, I think someone asked him about that, and he just basically said, he was apologizing to fantasy football owners because this is a season where he feels like everybody's going to have a chance to have big numbers and big plays, and maybe outside of Kelsey, you just don't know who Sunday is going to be.
And even you talked about that even earlier this week. Even asked him about Juju Smith-Schuster, who is a newcomer to the team, not a new person, not a new guy in the NFL, but he's new to the squad, and so he's still trying to find his way and find his role. And he had 2 fumbles last week. 2 fumbles that in a big time game like tonight could be huge, and so I asked him, like, what do you tell in game? What do you tell Juju about that? He said, "Man, I just tell him to keep going, keep grinding. I know what you can do. I know what you're capable of." And I also asked him, I said, "So are you not going to go to him anymore after that? Or are you going to still kind of try to make it a point to go back to him?" He said, "I'm gonna make a point to go back to him because I know what kind of player he is."
I will say this. Because you and I, of course, we travel to all the road games, and so we were looking, and we were kind of concerned because early on, it was like he'd have the ball and somehow would just fumble. And when I asked him to read about it after the game, he chalked it up to more so it being nerves and stuff because obviously, second half, didn't have those type of issues or whatever. And so I expect with the game being at home crowd, 78,000 people, I'm interested to see how these players, especially we got so many new players again. They had a couple games in preseason, but nothing to what they're going to see here tonight. I want to see how they react, crowd noise and the energy and stuff that they'll get from Arrowhead Stadium and their fans in tonight's game against Los Angeles, because that's what they're going to need. They're going to have to feed off of it if they're going to win this game tonight.
And that's just it. Most guys will tell you, like, that's the kind of game that they want to have.
Yeah.
They want to be able to feed off the energy of the crowd. if you're the home team. Now, the away team, I think that's something different. You're going into a hostile environment like Kansas City, and if this is your first year, it's something.
And I think it's going to be important for Chiefs fans, especially those that are here, that just like you said, the crowd noise, that has to be a factor. To me, every time they have the ball, they need to be so loud that they have to go and revert to a silent count.
Yeah, and look, as much as players feed off of the energy, fans feed off the energy as well. Because if you remember last year, Joe Burrow was like, Chiefs Kingdom isn't as loud as LSU and all that stuff, and Chiefs Kingdom let him know. And he didn't come out and just straight up say it, but it was loud. And I think a game like this, a primetime game where there's nothing else on TV except the football game, Chiefs Kingdom's going to show up.
I am, of course, looking forward to the biggest matchup, of course, is going to be what we see out at quarterback. Of course, we were talking before we came on the air how everybody is pretty much anointing Justin Herbert as an. I was actually reading on ESPN this evening. They were talking about the bets and stuff, and a lot of their prognosticators have Justin Herbert predicting him to win the MVP.
Yeah,
and so look, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't know where this new disrespect of Patrick has become like the common thing all of a sudden. Patrick fatigue, perhaps, but just like Tom Brady, when you're good, you're good. And if you're winning, it's kind of hard to just. You can't just do away with them because they're successful. And the fact that for the last 4 years he's hosted the AFC Championship game, he's gone to 2 Super Bowls and won one. I don't see. They haven't shown me any signs that he's going to be going on the downside anytime soon.
Yeah, and I'll take a phrase from the great Jay-Z. What more can I say, right? And that's all Patrick has to say is what more can I say? Because look, when you think about it, he's done everything that you can do. He's won NFL MVP, regular season MVP, Super Bowl MVP. He's won the Super Bowl. He's gotten paid, all of the above, right? And so, he's at the top of the top right now. And for people to just kind of say, "Oh, well, he ain't it," man, look, that's that dude.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how all of a sudden, because it's funny. Even when Kansas City lost to New England, they didn't come back the next year and just had Kansas City favored to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden Buffalo loses in a divisional round, and they come back this year and they're all of a sudden Super Bowl favorites. So we'll see how that all turns out. Obviously, Kansas City will host Buffalo in week number 6. So you and I will be here to be a late afternoon Sunday game.
And it's weird though, because even when you look at guys like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, all those guys are we talked about it, they're very similar style quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why that people were like, oh, well, Patrick, he can't keep this up for a long term because it's kind of that unorthodox, not the stereotypical I'm gonna stand back in the pocket, step up in the pocket. No, he'd rather be out being mobile, have his guys run around, kind of like what people say, oh, he draws it up in the dirt. Well, that may be so, but he gets the job done.
But here's the thing. When we look at Patrick and what he does, he doesn't have to, but he can stay in the pocket. The fact that he's mobile adds to his greatness, and that's a lot of things that you see in a lot of black quarterbacks. And to an extent, I think Josh Allen's got some of that in him. Justin Herbert maybe has a little bit. He's not afraid to run, being his size, but
that's not their strength.
No, definitely not the strength. But that's not Patrick's strength either. That's Lamar or someone else that might be Kyler. That's their strength. With Patrick, that's just an added value of what you get on, because his strength is his arm and the accuracy and as well as the deep ball and the creativity, that, as people say, the contortion of what he can do with his body and his arm.
Which is why it was very surprising that in last game Arizona blitzed him as much as they did, because to me his strength is getting outside of the pocket and creating,
But one of the things we talked about during the preseason, and I've talked about it all throughout the offseason, is that with all the new addition skill players that Kansas City has to it's going to be hard for a defense to figure out how to attack them. Mm-hmm. Because, like you said, you try to blitz him, okay, he can still beat you. If you sit back in zone, he can beat you underneath. Exactly. It's going to be up to the offensive skill players to make sure that they get themselves open, put themselves in position to, but also i.e. Juju. When the ball comes your way, you got to catch it and not fumble, make plays with it.
But that kind of goes. With what we've been saying is like there's a lot of guys on this offensive side of the ball and defense as well, but mainly the offense that have a lot to prove. You have McCole Hardman with the question of can he be a number one wide receiver? Same with Juju Smith-Schuster. Can he be a number one? Because without Tyreek, what is McCole? Without AB, what is Juju? And then you have MVS who was behind Devontae Adams. So without Devontae, what can he be? So you got all these guys as a collective coming in, and then you already know who the outlet of Travis Kelce. He's over 30. What can he still do? Yeah. So I'm just interested to see if they're able to continue and show improve basically.
Yeah, and look, just to get people's kind of get them set up for tonight. Mm-hmm. Chiefs lead the all-time series 65-57-1. The last time these two teams played, again, as we talked about it, last December, Chiefs walk off in overtime 34-28. Mm-hmm. Last time they played here, week number 3, Chargers beat the Chiefs 30-24. Look, Brandon Staley is their head coach. He's 1-1, of course, against Kansas City. Andy Reid, as always, 15-6 has a winning record against them. So.
But and Patrick kind of put his foot in his mouth in the American Championship golf tournament out Utah. I think it was 2 years. Then when a fan said, "Oh, Justin Herbert is going to whatever," he said, "We'll see. I see it when I believe it when I see it." Yeah. So I think that was kind of that bulletin board material for Justin Herbert to come in here, some extra for him to come in the Arrowhead and beat him.
Well,
other than that, I mean, he owns.
That's a good point. Look, let's take a look at defensively. What did you see in week number 1 for the Chiefs? Of course, we had a lot of questions, and we'll get to both sides of the ball. But on the defensive side of the football, we got a chance to see Carl Loftus. Obviously, Trent McDuffie was having a good game before he went down with injury. Yeah. And I tell people, if you're not hearing his name as a rookie on the telecast, it means he's doing a good job.
Unless you're Marcus Peters. Well, Kareem Hunt, rookie, rookie. So
doing that, yeah.
He can work for you or against.
It can't. I give you that. But George Karlaftis, but I want to get your thoughts on how you thought some of the new additions, some of the new faces on the defense side of football, Justin Reed, Cook, Joshua Williams and Leo Chanel, how you thought they did in their debut with Kansas City?
I think they did good. I really don't feel like they had too much of a test, to be honest, because when we look at the Arizona offense, they as a collective, they hadn't played together this season yet. And so, especially Kyler Murray, I don't think they got the best Kyler Murray. And I'm not making excuses for Arizona or anything, but I don't think that they got the best Kyler Murray.
You should have been studying the playbook.
Yeah, I don't think they got the best Kyler Murray. I think they got a Kyler Murray who a preseason game 1 Kyler Murray. That's who I feel like they got last week.
But again,
that's not an excuse.
But it's not the Chiefs' fault because a lot of players in Arizona as well didn't play in which. Look, I mean, we have this. We have this conversation every year when it's preseason about teams playing their players, and I'm like, and I've always been an advocate, like, you've got to, because especially when you got new additions to your team, you've got to, you can't simulate what you talk about doing in practice unless it's in a real game. And the Chiefs, to their point, first game, they played the first series, went down, scored a touchdown. Second game, I think they played the entire first quarter, scored and a little bit into the second, I think, scoring a couple of touchdowns. And, and then I think everybody outside of Patrick and Travis in the third game, played the first quarter as well. So, but we saw really in that game against Arizona how it looked like things were just clicking. Why? Because they had actually had some actual game experience together in the preseason.
Yeah, and when you're a young guy, there's no reason. I mean, I could see Aaron Rodgers. He's been there, done that. But he can wake up and play, but he still needs to play.
But he should have played because of the new wide receivers you got. Yeah. I mean, you can't.
In that case, you do. But but the thing about it is, it's football. It's the game you love, right? Like at least one game in the preseason. To me, it's a new season. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to strap it up at least one game. Like Patrick said, you need to get that first. You got to get that first hit against. And you hear all these guys talk about the live bullets, the live guys running around, being able to hit someone who isn't on your team.
Yeah.
I think that's huge for these guys, especially in football. This isn't like basketball where you can play scrimmage because you're shooting the ball, playing defense, no matter what. It's still the same type. But you got to be able to get that first hit. You got to.
Carlos Dunlap, new addition, new free agent signing.
Big Mac for
His first
sacks.
game, yeah, he had a sack in last week's game. Nick Bowden led the team with 10 tackles. Legarius Sneed, 8 tackles. He also had a sack as well in the pass defense. So again, I got a chance to be on the odd couple with Rob Parker and Chris Broussard this week, and we were talking about the team, and I told him, I said, I thought that the Chiefs defensively, have gotten much better because, again, last year we talked about they were one of the oldest teams in the league. This year they're one of the youngest. And the thing that we talked about most in preseason is that these new players, especially the draft class, you got 9 of them that made this team.
Yeah.
They want to make their own identity on this year's team. And on the defensive side of football, and I don't know if some of that maybe come from Justin Reed when we saw the highlights when they signed him, but they're physical. I mean, they get after. I mean, and they have no problem in the wood, which I like. I like because one, you're setting the tone, and I know we kind of joke about it, stuff like that. How I feel about the team, deferring and stuff like that. But I like the fact that when they lost the coin toss, what they do, they got the ball, they marched right down the field, and they scored.
And I think the scoring part of it is kind of a given, right? Like we see this team march up and down the field.
But that's not. But again, I mean, look, we saw where, let's say for example, take the AFC Championship game. They were up 21-3.
Yeah.
But second half of the game, they couldn't seem to score. So and the momentum changed. That's why I always felt like, if you get a chance, you become the aggressor and you make the other team play catch up and play from high. But
you can still, like, that's the thing that look, I believe in this hugely, right? Like, you can be an aggressor and still be able to take a punch.
No, and I get that. And look, I mean, it can work either way because obviously there have been some games when the defense was helping the team win where, okay, the team deferred and the defense was able to do a 3 and out. Yeah. So obviously, so now they 3 and out. We
see it in boxing all the time. We see guys on the defensive side. Let me see what you got. Let me see what you got. And then all right, that's it. All right, now I'm gonna throw you that haymaker and knock you out. So at the end of the day, whether they get the ball first or they don't, as long as you got it, what do you got to do? You got to score the ball. So if you don't score the ball first and you come back and score a second, look, your defense is gonna have to stop them at some point. So I think whether you get it first or second, it really doesn't matter.
Looking at the offense side of football, one of the things that we enjoyed seeing was seeing Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He got into the end zone twice. The rookie Isaiah Pacheco got in there in the game as well. And again, what I like is you get a lot of these rookies mixed in with the veterans, and they're getting a lot of meaningful time, playing time on the field. So when the rubber meets the road as the season progresses, you can count them in, and they're not going to be afraid of the big lights. Yeah. But what do you think of Clyde? Because we've talked about it, and look, I'm the first to say it, and I think you're not afraid to say it as well, that we think he might lose a starting job towards the end of the season if he can't make some plays. Now, I think week 1 he did well for himself, but Pacheco obviously, when you look at what he did, 62 yards at the team in rushing, got a touchdown. I mean, this is, again, I like this backfield. Obviously, Ronald Jones didn't play. He was on the he was a scratch. He was on the inactive last week. So I mean, they have great depth. It's just, again, I go back to the fact that they got so many weapons. How as a defense can you defend it? You got 5 wide receivers. They used a 3 tight end set. I mean, hell, they had Jody Fortson line up at wideout. So again, especially when you're not on the goal line, how do you do it? So.
And I think too, it's you got to remember the fact of it being all these guys have played, like you said, meaningful minutes, even the young guys. I really don't think that Andy is going to put these guys in a situation where they can't succeed.
No, they're not.
So you asked me about Clyde. Clyde, I feel like, was very assertive.
Yeah.
I feel like Clyde was
hit the hole hard.
And to me, I noticed the little things. I noticed body language, just being in the locker room, preseason games, even during training camp. Clyde didn't really want to talk. he really didn't, and I don't know if it was because people are very high on Isaiah Pacheco. I am. I know you are. I think guys see that. We hear it all the time from these veterans, like, hey, they're drafting your replacement. So some guys take it differently. Some guys know that, like, look at Travis Kelce. He understands, like, hey, they're going to draft a tight end. He's here to replace me, but I'm the man. I know I'm the man, and Clyde, I don't think has embraced that until he has done great. And I think Clyde hears it. Clyde hears they shouldn't have taken a running back in the first round. Oh, that was a bust. The Chiefs are going to try to figure it out, make a move with Clyde. And you as a player, you hear all that. So I think
the big question is always,
Isaiah Pacheco.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and he performed last week. He sees Isaiah Pacheco coming in here. He's bigger than you. He's faster than you, and he can do everything that you can do. Oh man, that's gonna have me like, all right, I gotta show what I can do. I'm not gonna talk to anybody until I show you what I can do.
Yeah, I can't argue that. My question out in Scanner, how did you think he did? I know I think he had 4 catches.
Yeah.
Juju, we talked about already, had about, I think, 6 or 7 catches.
It was
Travis
quiet.
is always
quiet. My MVS is just quiet.
But see, my thing is and we saw it a couple times even with Patrick with McCole, and I don't know if I think it's still McCole not run all the way through.
Yeah.
But I still think that there's some connection issues, to where, because I believe Patrick tried to get him a ball in the end zone one time,
Yeah,
and it's just
he's and he said this earlier in training camp. McCole is going to get all the routes that Tyree got. So
I'm sorry. And when I said I was thinking of MVS at that time.
Oh, okay, but McCole is going to get all the routes that Tyree got. Yeah. With that being said, he's going to throw the ball like the Tyree route, and I think
you better run like the Tyree
that, like you said, that timing kind of wasn't there. He, like Patrick said, I owe McCole too, because he understands that he threw it like it was Tyreek.
Yeah.
And that ain't Cheetah out there. That's somebody totally that's Jet. So it's totally different. But I think they'll figure it out, man.
I hope
they won the game. There really wasn't too much to complain about, to be honest. But can they keep it up for this week?
That's going to be key. The big now for me, and hopefully for the fans. And it may be kind of hard to watch because obviously they're going to be focused on Patrick, who throws the ball to. But I truly think that the matchup to watch are going to be those tackles going up against Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. To me, that's the ball game. If Kansas City and their tackles can withstand what those two players are going to bring, and if especially for me, this is like Orlando Brown. This is a contract game for him.
Yeah.
I'm saying, so
I agree.
You want to go into the off season to where you're going up in negotiations with Brett Veach. You need to be, because here's what's going to happen. If it's a good game, Orlando Brown's going to have that tape. If it's a bad game, Brett Veach is going to have that tape.
Yeah.
And so tonight's game,
but it's a long season.
No, it's a long.
They play him again too.
No, that is that
so,
part is true.
He could have a great game here, and we're going to still be saying the same thing next time.
But here's the difference: he's the one that needs to have the consistency. Because at the end of the day, Brett Veach ain't worried about getting paid. He got it. He getting his money.
They still need a left tackle. At the end of the day, them don't fall off trees.
But you know what though? There are some good ones in college now.
Yeah.
Alabama, Georgia, they kind of produce those.
But Orlando Brown's kind of good. He's got that ace in the hole in his back pocket, being friends with Patrick Mahomes. You got to remember, we're good. What did he say earlier this week? We're great friends.
Hey,
that's his ace in the hole.
I have no problem. Look, I want the man to get paid, but I also know, as I said about the wide receivers, what you do tonight. You're putting your stuff on film, and this is tonight's game is a negotiation. That's just what it is. At the end of the day, this is still a business. So when you go into the offseason and you go with Brett, you go toe-to-toe with Brett Veach again. If you can, not only this game, but like you said, you play them again twice. Who knows what happens if both of them make to the playoff?
And they still got Buffalo. With Von Miller out there.
This entire season. This entire season is a resume builder.
I got you. I understand, and I don't think it could be made or broke off in one game. He's built his resume too. You got to remember, they could have said, "All right, we're going to release you,"
but
and just go figure it out.
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, I get that. But we look at the AFC Championship game. They lost. They could have said, all right, we're going to do away with this left tackle because you want more money than we're willing to pay you. We're not going to franchise tag you. We're going to let you walk. So I think there's some interest there. They want him here. And then, like I said, he has that ace in the hole of Patrick Mahomes vouching for him. And if you have your star quarterback vouching for you, they're not going to do anything with him, no matter if he goes out there and lets tag.
I agree. Look, if you're Patrick, you got a 6'8", 6'9" guy, 330, 40 pounds that can keep you upright, keep you protected.
Yeah.
Again, for me, you got a $500 million investment in number 15.
Yeah.
do you really want to take a chance and mixing and matching and trying to just pluck somebody out to try to protect this guy with risking all that? No, the Lords of London got money, but I don't know if they're trying to do all that.
I remember too. It's on Patrick as well. Like
Yeah.
if you expect Orlando Brown to go out there and block for 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds,
you better get that damn ball out.
Yeah, you gotta
and you better
figure
make
it
some
out.
plays. Yeah, no, you absolutely right.
So
no, absolutely
I mean,
right.
Orlando Brown has to own some of it. Patrick has to own some of it, and the other offensive linemen have to own a lot of it, and the running back that's blocking in pass pro. So it has to be all working together. This can't be put all solely on Orlando Brown.
Kansas City Chiefs, of course, tonight they host the Los Angeles Chargers, 7:15 kickoff right here at G.E.H.A Field at Arrowhead Stadium. I got that right the first time around.
They pay you to say that?
No, but I'm not saying it again. I can't say that much. But look, they host the Los Angeles Chargers, a division matchup. The Chargers they're already 1-0 in the division, defeating the Las Vegas Raiders 24-19. Kansas City come to this game after defeating the Arizona Cardinals 44-21 on the road in Phoenix. Steve, when we look at some of the injuries that Kansas City suffered in the game, I don't want to say there were two, none bigger than, of course, Trent McDuffie, who's on the IR for the next 3, maybe 4 games, and then Harrison Butker, who's at least out for this game with the ankle injury. We saw Justin Reed, and a lot of times we joke about things like this, but the fact that he took it upon himself during training camp, hey, Coach told, can I get out there and kick? And he let him do it, and he showed he can
more
kick.
You can do.
Yeah, and not only, I'm not saying it made him more valuable, but it made him a liable asset because of what he was able to do when Harrison Butker went down. He came right up out there, came right out there on the field. They said, "Hey, we need you out there." He went out there, kicked the extra point, and then boom the kickoff, and through the nets. And so I think he had 5 kickoffs for touchbacks in that game. So I mean, to me, he made himself more valuable. I mean, he was a team MVP. I mean, granted, Patrick with what he did, but I think he was able to kind of have some MVP status on his team with what he did, being able to step in. Because much as we love Tyrann Matthews, Tyrann couldn't have done what he did.
Yeah, and you talked about the 2 injuries with Butker and also McDuffie.
Yeah.
Andy talked about it earlier this week about the field. They put down some new sod or whatever on the turf, and the turf was loose.
Yeah, because I remember telling you, I was looking at doing the binoculars. I was like, hey, man, this field is horrible.
Yeah. So I think Andy I would be upset, especially if 2 of my key guys were injured due to
and
not anything on their own.
McDuffie would have been great tonight. Obviously, Keenan Allen is out for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, that's huge.
believe they're going to be without J.C. Jackson as well at the corner, and so it's funny because you can say it's an advantage for the Chiefs, but with Trent McDuffie out, you would think it'd be an advantage for Mike Williams. But again, the way the Chiefs have been with their depth and how they play defensively, I think it still lines up as an advantage for Kansas City. Of course, the Chiefs are minus 4.5 point favorite. The over/under I think is 54.5 right now. So, I mean, this is going to be an interesting matchup, to say the least.
Yeah, it's going to be electric in here. And I think just looking at the parking lot, being out in the parking lot, passing out some Gates Barbecue gift cards, I really believe that people are going to be, because there was a huge issue about people being in their seats, early, right? Like being in their seats, being there ahead of when, because a lot of times you get people out in the parking lot, they're having a great time with their friends and family. They come strolling in after the national anthem, but people are actually in their seats now and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And they got the rally towels going, which is,
rally towels?
Yeah, rally towels.
Man, they didn't give us no rally towels. Oh, well, at least we got fire sticks.
Yeah,
so
we did.
Shout out to Amazon too. We really appreciate the fire sticks.
And one other shout out too. I got the Fresca, which is and this isn't an ad, but it made important. This is very important. They handed out the Frescas for the one and only Lynn Dawson. Also, one of these I'm gonna use this while I'm golfing. But they're honoring Lynn Dawson with the Fresca today. So yeah, it's really.
I got the look on my face because I asked him if you wanted the Fresca. Oh no!
I went and grabbed one. After I figured out what it was.
That's what I told you. I told you what it was for.
Great for citrus too. Yeah.
Shout out to, of course, in honor of Lynn Dawson, the RIH form. So.
To ensure a proper atmosphere,
I'd speak, but we got this. I don't want that all in the broadcast.
Yeah.
Let's let him say what he's got to say. So look, I want to ask you. She scored 44 points. Mahomes, 5 touchdowns. I think. Obviously, there was a rushing touchdown, and I can't remember who else might have scored.
Fired Isaiah Pacheco.
No, yeah, okay, two rush touchdowns. So I bring that up because I want to ask you about the coaching in that game. Obviously, we got some new additions to the coaching staff. Matt Nagy coming back.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Steve, because I didn't hear much credit being given to Eric Bieniemy in this offensive game. In the game that was called, and they scored 44 points. Because you remember the whole hoopla coming out of the AFC Championship game was he was the one to be.
How could I forget?
He was the one to be blamed, and I'm just I want to make sure that he gets his flowers because again they scored 44 points and everybody's going to try to spread the credit around, but not start where it should start. So I just want to get your thoughts on the coaching, and again, but also it does take a lot. And I was listening to a podcast the other day. And somebody asked the question, what's harder to find, a great coach or a great quarterback? And, they said it's like a chicken and egg, but I really think it starts with a great coach because you can have presumably a great quarterback, i.e., let's say Trevor Lawrence. He was obviously great in college to come out.
Yeah.
But Urban Meyer, even though he was a great coach in college, wasn't like that in the NFL and maybe set him back. You got Andy Reid, who, when he was here, brought in Alex Smith. Alex Smith was a competent quarterback in San Francisco, but when he was here, Andy Reid got the best of him.
There it is.
Couldn't get as much as everyone would have liked, but then brought in Patrick, and we saw how that has flourished since then. Because I think Troy Aikman was a great quarterback with the Cowboys, but he didn't really become as great as he would be until Jimmy Johnson got there and got the pieces around him and stuff like that. So.
I think sometimes it kind of works in tandem, right?
Yeah.
I think with you can have let's just say you got Patrick Mahomes and he's with a new coach, right? Patrick is going to bring his level of play and still be great, but he's going to bring that coach up and say, hey, coach me hard. Right. Some guys that are great, like, hey, don't sugarcoat anything. Make sure that you coaching me hard. And then sometimes a lot of times you get those great coaches that'll bring the most out of guys that you wouldn't see, that'll run through a wall for a coach.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it kind of has to work, in tandem with each other. Because sometimes you can get that great coach that gets some wasted years because he gets some bum quarterbacks. And you get a quarterback, like the Houston situation before all this, the new stuff. You get a quarterback that's really good that has a terrible coach.
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So, Bill O'Brien.
So I mean, it has to work together. Sometimes you got to get that great match, and it's not often that they click. I think there's some give and take with both, but I feel like the more important one is, to me, the quarterback. Because you can have a great coach, but he ain't out there playing.
Keys to the game for you tonight. So if the Chargers are to win tonight, how do you see them beating Kansas City?
Oh, man, it's going to have to come from the defense. I feel like you're going to have to be able to stop this Kansas City Chiefs offense and Patrick Mahomes. That's key. That's number one. The first thing you got to do, because they can score. You watched them through preseason, and that was the main question about this Chiefs team. Is like, all right, how good can they be without Tyreek Hill? And you've watched them. You saw what they did to Arizona last week. So that's number one. You got to be able to slow down this Chiefs offense. You got to remember last week they were 6 of 6 in the red zone.
Yeah.
So
for me, if the Chargers are to win, it is going to come in. But not only that, they have to be physical, because that's something that we didn't really see in Arizona.
I.e. Tampa Bay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You got to be physical, you got to be aggressive, you got to put your hands on them, and you got to get to Patrick. Not only do you got to, you got to put him down. To me, that's going to be the only way, because you need to make it so to where Patrick is thinking he's got to hurry up and throw the ball, because he feels like he's hearing footsteps becoming because because your tackles or your guards or whatever can't block somebody. So for me, that's gonna be key, because again, if you can't get to Patrick, if Patrick has more than 3 seconds. That's going to be the key. So on the flip side, what does Kansas City need to do to win this game tonight?
Keep Travis Kelce involved. As he goes, they go. I think you talk about being physical. That's one of the things people really don't talk about is how physical these good teams, these good defenses are with Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
You take Kelce out of the game, it makes that's the outlet for Patrick. If you take that away, then you got an opportunity to try to beat them. I'm not trying to give y'all the play, but the sauce, but it's a pregame cheat sheet. So who better than to do it than us?
We cheat. Give you extra
so you got to take away Travis Kelce. Now I know it's hard to do because Isaiah Simmons, he's a very good player last week for Arizona Cardinals, and he couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
So you got to be that the formula is Tampa Bay, but again, you can't play that cover 2 shell. And so you got to come downhill and be physical, like you said, with these guys. So I think Patrick has to play well, too. He's got to get everybody involved, go out there and have fun. I think that's going to be the key.
For me, the key, kind of similar to what you're doing, but I think has to be the key and the repeat of what they did in Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier said than done because you can only do what the defense allows you to do for the most part. But you can also dictate how the defense, if they're in a certain coverage, you can play them out of it. I always believe a decent balance just because of what we know they have in the running game. However, I think if you give Patrick, again, if he gets at least 3 seconds, hopefully Patrick can kind of see the field if he decides he's going to run or scramble or whatever.
Yeah.
But to me, everything is going to come down to the accuracy of Patrick Mahomes.
I agree.
And I think him being able to dish the ball up to different receivers and different running backs. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but Clyde in the open space in the passing game, we talked about it. That was huge because I also think that something like that gives him more confidence because sometimes we look at him trying to run in between the tackles and it's like but you put him on the outside and he's give him space, open space. Yeah. He's dangerous. So I think for me, seeing Patrick just being able and here's the other thing, and I said it, we said in the press box, he didn't have to beat you down the field anymore. I mean, he doesn't have to have that big play. Now he can have it in his back pocket and they can do it. They had the skilled players to do it and they had the speed to do it. But I like the fact that he doesn't always have to feel like he's got to throw it 80 yards to beat you, to where he can get it to Juju, he can get it to MVS, and they can just keep extending the chains. And then the most important part is when you get down, because that was one of the weaknesses that the Chiefs had in the red zone over the last few years, because you got those speed players, but they didn't have the height and the size that when you get down in the red zone and get close to get down to the end zone, it was hard for them to have separation.
Jody Fortson, a great target.
Jody Fortson, Juju with his size, and then of course MVS with his height and stuff like that. So now you've got so many different opportunities, and then Pacheco has that Kareem Hunt build to where it's like, bro, let's get it done, man. And so,
which is another reason you talk about being in the middle of the field. You got a guy that's able to go across the middle, Sammy Watkins type in Juju.
Well, thing is, Juju can stay healthy. I don't even,
no shot at Sammy, but it's the truth.
No smoke. But be that as it may, Steve, we are coming down to the wire. Kickoff is just about 20 minutes away. Gotta ask you, who wins tonight?
I got the Chiefs. Last week I told you I'm get there. Hold on. I got the Chiefs, and like last week I said it was going to be by 2 touchdowns. I really believe that this offense is unstoppable, man. Like, you've got so many options across the board, from your running game to your wide receivers to your tight ends. There's so many options, and his quarterback's just too good. I think they're going to win by a touchdown, at least by a touchdown. And so it's not going to be one of those 3-point close games. I think the Chiefs are going to be commanding, and here's why I say that. It's because not only is the talent, but these guys are trying to prove something.
Yeah.
And I said it earlier in the show, and I'm going to keep saying it. These guys are really trying to prove something. You're writing them off. And the fact that they know that they're good, they know that they've been at the top, and these teams are the AFC West has created teams to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And not only AFC West, but the AFC as a whole.
Yep.
They've seen how the formula of Andy Reid as a coach. They've seen the great tall quarterback and the speedy receiver, and that's what they're trying to do. So I think that it's going to be a Chiefs by a touchdown.
But the only flip, of course, still ain't gave me a score. But the only flip side of that, though, is that while they're also trying to quote unquote prepare or build their teams to beat them, Kansas City is still building their teams to where whatever you do, I can do better.
And I got your score: 34, or
27,
34. No, I'm going to go 34-21.
Huh?
34-21. That's it.
Oh, 13 points.
Yeah,
okay.
34-21. I said at least 7, but 34-21 is my score.
Okay, I've got Kansas City 35-28. I just I think because it is a division matchup, I'm going to give the Chargers that much respect. Now, again, well, here's the thing. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it.
The playoffs 2 years in a row.
That's true, but they've also beaten Kansas City at home. They've gotten the better of it. Yeah. They did improve defensively. And look, I am not going to be like those people who want. And I told people don't underestimate Khalil Mack. Oh, he's washed. Look, man, he was in Chicago. He was with Matt Nagy. The team wasn't that good. You put him along somebody. I mean, he had 3 sacks last week. Joey both had a sack and a half. I mean, that's a dangerous combination again. I think, Orlando Brown has talked big this week. He said he's ready for the challenge. So I'm going to be interested. I'm going to pull out the binoculars. That's what I'm going to be focusing on tonight. The line of scrimmage against those players. But I got Kansas City 35-28, and I think. I think Kansas City's 4.5 point favorite. I got them covering, and I see this game going over.
Yeah. I agree. Like I said, it's at least by 7 points, possibly more. It's going to be fun to watch. People are already in their seats.
Throws at least 3 touchdowns. Let me just say that.
Okay.
Put that in the atmosphere. He has at least throw 2. I need Patrick to throw at least 3.
Yeah.
Everything else, we'll let that go. But before we get out of here, Steve, of course, let you thank our sponsors for this evening.
Yeah. First off, I want to thank G.E.H.A Barbecue. G.E.H.A is the best barbecue.
Home,
the best barbecue. It's our pregame meal to go with the pregame cheat sheet. G.E.H.A Barbecue has been riding with both of us, over
from the very beginning.
From the very beginning. So I want to thank G.E.H.A Barbecue. I also want to thank people that have outfitted us for each and every game. Myself, Dillard's on Rosa. You can go out there and talk to my guy Jeff. Whether you're male, female, have kids. You can find everything from purses to get your makeup done, nice suits, athletic wear. Go out and talk to my friends out at Dillard's and Zona Rosa.
Of course, for myself, Todd White of Todd's Clothier and Taylor Suits, 2 locations down at the Crossroads off of 21st and Broadway, and of course Ward Parkway, the Ward Parkway Mall, where I go out and get styled and fitted each and every game. And so we're very thankful again. G.E.H.A Barbecue, 5 locations across the metro area. Feel free to go in, tell them Steve or I sent you. They'll take good care of you. But don't
be nervous when you go in there too.
I know
don't get nervous.
I know they yell at you, but that's Kansas City's customary way of welcoming you. So it just how may I help you? Trust me. Don't be afraid. Mm-hmm. Don't clutch your pearls. Don't clutch your purse. Nobody's going to attack you. They're just trying to feed you.
Yep.
But look, follow us on our respective platforms. Of course, myself with the ship, weekends on KLKC Fox Sports Radio. Steve Walls with the W, of course, on 100.1 FM KONN. And then, of course, his is 11 a.m. on Saturday mornings, mine is 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings and 8 p.m. on Sunday nights. We also, just follow us, the Red Hour. Make sure you join us this Monday night coming up at the Soiree Steak and Oyster House on 18th.
Hang out with us.
Hang out, have some good food, watch, join us watching Monday Night Football. There's going to be 2 games on this Monday night, so we'll get a chance to just hang out and kick it with us. We'll talk Chiefs football. We'll talk about tonight's win that we're speaking into existence. And then, of course, we'll circle back around with DJ Q and Sean Tyler as well. And then also, again, just in general, man, just follow us on our social media platforms at Steve Walls KC, at Darren at WHB. And the next time you see us, of course, will be post-game. But the next time we have the Chiefs pregame cheat sheet, we'll be live from Indianapolis, Indiana, where we'll be doing it 11. Well, I guess it'll be noon. Well, no, it'll be 11 o'clock here, but it'll be noon in Indianapolis. So Steve and I will be on the road the next 2 games in Indianapolis, along with Tampa Bay for the Sunday night football game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So for Steve Walls, I am Darren Smith. Thank you so very much for the pregame cheat sheet. We'll see you all after the game.